for joining us on the Right of Way Report, a podcast by Pike Off OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's June 3rd already, the second week of summer, and we felt like we hadn't talked to everybody in a while. We've been pretty busy on Mondays, and we apologize for not being able to come on Mondays, but we're going to start up again this summer. And we had lots of things to talk to you about today. Kelly's going to join in a little bit. My name's Amy Serrato, and Kelly and I have been part of Pike Off OTA and Oklahomans for Responsible Transportation for a little over 4 years now. And we're happy to start this podcast in January to get you some information. And we've got some things to talk about, including our 5th annual Royal Bavaria Family Fun Night, which is this Sunday from 5 to 8 p.m. pending weather. I don't know if anyone's looked at the weather, but it doesn't look good. And if we have to cancel it, we will push it to Sunday, June 14th. And we want to talk to you about the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority meeting from yesterday. Lots of things happened, and there was a 500 and something page agenda that we need to talk about, including they want to approve or go for another $1.5 billion in bonds on June 25th, and we hope to stop that. And then they've condemned a whole bunch of other properties with people that are putting up a fight, so good for you. And they went into an executive session to talk about some lawsuits. So we'll talk about that. And then we have an upcoming election, a primary election on Tuesday, June 16th. And I don't know if you've looked at the Republican primary ballot, but it is so big, it has to be 2 pages plus the special election for that state question. So we'll talk about some of the candidates and talk about who are the No More Turnpikes diehard candidates, one's not taking PAC money. And so we encourage everyone to do some due diligence in these next 2 weeks leading up to the primary. So Kelly is going to pop on hopefully soon, and but I'll get started, and hoping everyone's having a good summer so far, and everyone's got their garden in, even though it's been raining a lot. So if you can, we've got a great event. It's always a great event coming up. The 5th annual Royal Bavaria Family Fun Night. You can see it on the screen. And we've got Sean Profit is going to play for us. He's a local musician that plays at the Royal Bavaria quite often. And unfortunately, he's also affected by the east-west connector. So his house is on the chopping block if we can't get this stopped. And he was really happy to be able to play for us on Sunday. So come out and listen to some great live music. We're going to have some games and some fun and some community, and we hope to have some big updates for you that we can't talk about today, but hopefully we'll be able to let you know some good things that are happening to fight back against the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's unnecessary and unneeded and completely destructive east-west connector and southern extension plans for Cleveland County. So come out to that buffet, get your friends to come out. It's in the beer garden. It's $22 for adults and $10 for kids, and it's all you can eat, and it's fantastic. And Andy does a great job for us. He gives us back all of his profits on that, and so we make a couple $1,000s every time we do that event to help us pay for our legal fees and our legislative efforts and our education efforts. So please do come out. There's room. Well, I think one year we had 250 people. Last year we were about 150. The weather was kind of crazy, and it was the Thunder basketball playoffs. So now that the Thunder's not in the playoffs, you have no excuses to not come, and hopefully we have some good weather. We're going to make a call on Thursday if we're going to cancel it based on the weather. And then if we do cancel because of weather, we'll put it on to Sunday, June 14th. Okay, so let's move on. I'm going to go, since Kelly really wanted to talk about the agenda. Well, I guess I can talk about the one thing on the agenda. which was the bond rating. So I'm gonna add my screen to the stream, and I'm gonna blow it up. Let's see. So if anybody had a chance to watch the Turnpike Authority meeting on Tuesday, you would know that item 1398 was discussed, and they wanted the board, the rubber stamping board that never says no and pretends like they read things before they get there and does their due diligence and ask questions. They wanted them to consider a resolution authorizing the issuance of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, Oklahoma Turnpike System revenue bonds consisting of second senior revenue bonds, Series 2026, to the tune of $1.5 billion with a B dollars to work on their access program. And then in item 1399 and item 1400, and then of course 1401 was a payment registry, but they are asking to submit an application to the Council of Bond Oversight for provisional and final approval of the financing and refinancing of certain turnpike projects. So remember, it's a Ponzi scheme. So they can get, by law, because the legislature has given them a blank check to do whatever they want in the state of Oklahoma, they can get bonds to build new roads, but they can also get bonds to pay off the debt of previous bonds when they don't have enough revenue. And so we have a retired CPA looking into this, and she has noted violations all over the place of their trust agreement and how they're trying to do these second senior bonds, and how no one is calling them out on the fact that when you get second senior revenue bonds to pay for the construction of a turnpike, that turnpike has to prove that it can be self-sustainable and pay off all of its debt and the maintenance and the required reserve funds within 5 years. And no turnpike has done that since the Turner, the Will Rogers, and the Kilpatrick. And so like when they did the H.E. Bailey spur, that was a total loser, and the Council for Bond Oversight just stamped it and said, yeah, do whatever you want. So we are hopefully going to stop this bond let and make them prove that their turnpike projects, the East-West Connector and the Southern Extension Turnpike, will satisfy the requirements in statute and trust agreement. So we have some news coming up on that. And the way you can stop these bond lets is by litigation, and that's how we did it 4 years ago. And so stay tuned for that, because we hope we're pretty close to launching that. And so the Council for Bond Oversight, I don't know if anyone knows about that, but that's under the Debt Management and the Debt Management Division in the Council of Bond Oversight. So it's led by the treasurer. And remember, we have primary elections coming up, and there's the incumbent running, and then Cindy Byrd, who is a state auditor. And I'd like for you to consider voting for Cindy Byrd, because she knows firsthand from going through an audit that was highly political and very whitewashed by the Attorney General and all of the people lobbying the Attorney General, because the Attorney General, remember, is going to be running for governor, or is running for governor. And she was very adamant with us that there were significant issues. And so she understands the problems, and she understands the trust agreement, and she understands all of that. And so, while, politicians can tell you whatever they want while they're trying to get elected, and then do something completely different after they've been elected, which is what 98% of all the elected officials in Oklahoma do, I still have to remain optimistic that because she does understand the finance, that she's going to do a way better job than the current treasurer, which just kind of looks at the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority application, is like, yeah, okay, that's great, but doesn't really go line by line and check to make sure they've hit every single trust agreement requirement, and asks good questions and doesn't take the propaganda that is being spewed by the OTA as gospel and actually checks in it. So I really think we need to change over the treasurer, and the treasurer can control the Council for Bond Oversight. And so I really want you to consider voting for Cindy Bird in that position. If you go through the website for the Council for Bond Oversight, you know that the meeting materials, you can find all the agendas, and the next meeting is June 25th at 10 a.m. It's always in the state capitol. And while I don't have the agenda out right now, we know that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority is most likely going to ask for the bonds at this particular meeting. So put that on your calendar, June 25th, 10 a.m. in the Oklahoma State Capitol in room 100. And we are hopefully going to file some paperwork to stop this. And again, the only way that you really can in the state of Oklahoma, because it's a rubber stamping board, they have a rule that if the agency is under litigation that has to do with what they're trying to get bonds for, that by law they cannot give those bonds. And and we have history of that, right? We did that in May and June of 2022, and it worked. We're the only nonprofit and group in Oklahoma that has ever kept the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority out of the bond market for multiple years. And if you remember, they had to shut down their access program because they lacked money in 2023 because they're financially unsound. And again, it's a Ponzi scheme, so they need all these bonds to pay off their old bonds. And they try to go so fast and get so far ahead so no one can stop them. And that's exactly what they're doing right now. And so again, June 25th, 10 a.m., the Council for Bond Oversight, we're going to hopefully stop that bond let. So that was in the agenda. Also, they went into an executive session to talk about pending lawsuits against them, and I'll talk about that in a future one. I have several substacks that I've drafted up to talk about the lawsuit and what's happening on the Will Rogers and some other ones. So stay tuned for that. And then when Kelly pops on, hopefully she'll be able to talk about the resolution of necessity to take more people's homes. Oh, she just popped on.
Hey there.
Hi, Kelly.
How's it going?
It's going well. We just got done talking about the Council for Bond Oversight.
Yes,
and
yes.
Stopping that $1.5 billion monstrosity of a revenue bond sale that they're going to try to get on June 25th.
Yep. It's coming.
Yeah. So,
maybe.
Maybe. We're talking about how to stop that through litigation. So I wanted to know if you were ready to talk about the resolution of necessity for condemnation, all those, if you wanted to talk about that part of the agenda.
Yeah, we can definitely dive into that. I can probably pull that up on my end. Did you have anything else that you wanted to run by everybody first?
We
just want to talk about that.
Yeah, the three topics that I was thinking about, we talked about Royal Bavaria already, and then I've got the agenda pulled up. We talked about the bond let, and then I've got the sample ballot. I could talk a little bit about the ballot on June 16th for our No More Turnpikes friends. So I can do that while you're pulling that up.
Run through that. I'm going to pull up that resolution of necessity and get a few things queued up for that real quick.
Okay.
And then we should be good to go very soon.
Sure. So I'm going to share my screen again because it can be bigger. So did anyone look at the actual Republican primary? So, it's not a secret. I was registered an independent for 26 years, and I figured out real fast that you really need to be registered as a Republican to have any kind of effect on the election. So I switched a couple years ago when the Turnpike came through, and I've been voting in the Republican primaries ever since. And this year is the biggest one I've ever seen. And I'm going to tell you that after you've been in politics and been following it very closely in the legislature, you know real fast, who's just talking to you, and then who is the real deal. And so if you look for the governor race, there's 9 people running in the Republican primary for governor. And the only one that I will vote for is Jake Merrick. And stop. I mean, you can talk to me until you're blue in the face about anybody else, but I'm pretty staunch about that. We've had some really uncomfortable run-ins with several of these people on the list when they were in the legislature, and they never did what they said they were going to do, including Charles McCall as just not anybody that I would ever trust to do something for the citizens, because he blocked every single one of our bills for 3 years when he was the House Speaker. I don't know a lot about the other people besides Gettner Drummond, and quite frankly, once Stan Ward died, he forgot about us. So Stan Ward was our really only connection to get him to do what we wanted him to do, for the will of the people and for the good of the people. And so I've not been super impressed with his ability to follow through. And also, like, can we not litigate white collar crime? There's so much going on, and it feels like you and me, the proletariat, when we do something wrong, we're slapped down and thrown in jail. But when all these connected people do something wrong, steal millions of dollars from the citizens and have all these different schemes and grift at the government private property or private partnership interface, nothing happens to them, and that's his job. And I was really hopeful, but I'm over him. So after the audit came out, he's done with me. But so I'm a big Jake Merrick fan. He's the only one that's not taking any PAC money. And we're going to show you the Guardian website in a little bit. I think it's a great website. It's really slow, but it tells you everything: who's been funded by who, what lobbyists are funding what lobbyists. Check this out. And then the next one, the lieutenant governor, I just have 3 stories about this. So we had a very bad encounter with Brian Hill, who was the chair of a committee in the House, who filed an amendment 17 minutes before his committee was to meet that stripped all the citizens' rights out of the bill and put everything the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority wanted. Like, he literally did an unfriendly amendment, didn't let anybody read it, 17 minutes before, and he's just like the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority's little puppet, and he's everybody's puppet because he's a politician, and I wouldn't vote for Brian Hill. And then T.W. Shannon, who apparently has MAGA's support, he was on the Oklahoma Turnpike Commission. Do you remember everybody that was here in 2022? He was on the Oklahoma Department of Transportation's Oklahoma Transportation Commission as our District 3 representative for us. He never showed up to one meeting. Our only friend on that Oklahoma Transportation Commission was James Grimsley, and he was from Southeast Oklahoma. Our representative, T.W. Shannon, never showed up once in 2 years, never voted on anything. He didn't say anything about the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority. He didn't try to fight for us. He did nothing. He was absent. And now he's running for lieutenant governor. Don't vote for him. The only person that I'm a fan of in this list is J.J. Humphrey, because he just pokes the bear for the citizens, and he speaks the truth. And, you know, he's not perfect, but I feel like he's the only honest one. So for lieutenant governor, if you're voting in the Republican primary, know the background of some of these people that have done harm to the citizens regarding specifically the Turnpike. And those 2 people that have done harm specifically are Brian Hill and T.W. Shannon. So Attorney General, I don't know if anyone's been watching their mailers lately, but I think this one's interesting because, you know, John Echols was in the House, and I think he was Speaker of the House. And we didn't have a good experience with him either. And I don't know anything about Jeff Starling, so I have to do my research on him. But has anyone gotten all these mailers from Secure Oklahoma PAC? I don't even know who Secure Oklahoma PAC is. But I don't know if you can see this, but it says John Eccles works for himself, not Oklahomans, slimy career politician. And, you know, usually I'm really, like, if I get these mailers and they go hard against somebody, I've gotten 3 in the last week about this. And they're all funded by Secure Oklahoma PAC. Well, I happen to agree with their mailers because I wasn't a fan of him when he was in the House and representing the citizens. And I want to show you that he has taken a ton of money from lobbyists. So I went to the Oklahoma Ethics Commission Guardian site and I looked up lobbyist money. And so I'm gonna make this bigger so you can see it. So apparently John Eccles has taken $27,412 from lobbyists. And he's got a ton of you can look like what it was, mainly meals and food and beverages. And there are people in our legislature that don't take any, like they don't go to meals with people. And so if you wanted to search your candidate, you could go up here to the Guardian website. So it's, we have the link in our description under this podcast. And you can go, I went to home. So if you just go home and then you can go to search and you go to lobbyists and you can go over to the lobbyists here. And then, oops, that was the wrong one. Sorry. Where did I just go? Home, search. Let's see. Lobbyist expenditures. Sorry, lobbyist expenditures. And then you can go down to the recipient's name. And like say you want to look somebody else up. I mean, I don't know who to look up. Let's see, McCall. Let's look up McCall. And then you hit search. And it is a pretty slow site, so you just have to watch that ball bounce back and forth and spin as it works for you. But then it'll come back and it'll say, okay, Charles McCall has had $19,419 or $419, $19,419 worth of meals and other things that were paid for by lobbyists. So you can check out who's getting paid by lobbyists and what they're doing. And I actually, before I go to the polls, if I don't know somebody, I actually just get on the site and look up lobbyist expenses, and then I look up who's been funding them. And so if you go back to home and then search, and you want to search for candidates, you can search for contributions, expenditures. You can search anything you want in here, like any candidate that you want to look up, you can figure out who's been funding them. So Jonathan Eccles was a state representative, obviously, and then he's active as Attorney General. So if you click on that, you can come down and see all his first quarter reports, second quarter reports, and so 2026 first quarter report. If you click on that, you can find out who's been funded by. And I find this to be interesting. So I'm not an expert in how to read these, to be honest, but you can see that the dude's got $1.4 million. Total funds in kind contribution received $1.6 million. And then if you can go down, you can see who has funded him and where they're from. And sometimes Political Action Committee, Association of Oklahoma Nurse Practitioners. So you can just look through this and find out who's been funding them. it looks like maybe the individual monetary contribution has gone up from $2,900 to $3,500, but I think this is an interesting look into who is getting what kind of money. And so I encourage you to do this when you're going to the polls, and actually be, as much as people think that the elections are fraudulent, and in many cases they probably are, I think that the only thing we can do is show up in mass and vote intelligently, not just pick somebody because we like their name. So check out this Oklahoma Ethics Commission, The Guardian, and we have, again, the website is located in our description. And we'll go back to the, let's see. Okay, we'll go back to the next one. The state treasurer, you got Todd Russ. He's the incumbent. He hasn't done anything for us. Cindy Bird, I have to have optimism that she will change the bad things that are going on with the Council of Bond Oversight, who is appointed solely by the governor. So think about that, right? We changed the law 4 years ago, so the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority Board had to be appointed by the Senate, the legislature, and the governor. So we took away some of his power. And by the way, I don't know if you remember that we just won that lawsuit. So they sued the legislature that said it was unconstitutional, and they came back and said, no, it's perfectly constitutional. That's the citizen's right to change that law. But this Council for Bond Oversight used to be legislatively appointed, and then it got changed to be an executive branch appointment. So it's all the Chamber of Commerce, all these people. Honestly, I really don't think they understand bonds, because bonds are super complicated, and they're just taking everybody's word for it. The University of Oklahoma shows up and asks for bonds? Yes. The DHS shows up and asks for bonds? Yes. Anybody that shows up for bonds, Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, sure, go take them, even though they haven't checked to make sure that they're real. I don't know anything about the superintendent of public instruction. I need to do some more research on that. I only know one person in the Commissioner of Labor, and that's Kevin West, and he was a friend to the No More Turnpikes group. I don't even know what the Commissioner of Labor does, so that's on me. I need to go look at that. I don't know anybody in the Insurance Commissioner. The Corporation Commissioner, I believe, sets the rates for all the utilities, and the one guy that I do know is Justin Hornback, and he is like a welder. He was worked out in the oil fields, and I've heard a few podcasts with him, and he is grassroots, and so I need to look into the other guy too, but Justin Hornback was pretty impressive when I listened to him on a podcast. And then the rest of them is national, and I know nothing about the United States senators that are running, except for my district, this United States Representative District. I'm not voting for the incumbent. The dude's been there for, I don't know, 30 years maybe, and he's on all the appropriations committees, and if you look at the things that he's appropriating to the state of Oklahoma, you would be disgusted. So I just can't, the swamp needs to be drained, and just like vote for somebody new. And don't let them sit there for the lifetime. So just think about that when you go. But it's coming up. And then, of course, we've got the other ballot that you need to think about, and I haven't even thought about this yet, the state question number 832, which came from an initiative petition to amend the Oklahoma Minimum Wage Act. And now I really encourage you to read this, because I've read both sides of the story, and I have a real hard time increasing government control. And this totally increases government control. Like, it sets it from the federal government. After this is passed, Oklahoma cannot do anything about it. And I don't like to give more power to the federal government. So I think you need to read how this is written. It is, sounds good, more money, but how it's implemented and what it's tied to, I think can really hurt the local economy. So just check that out and read it. I don't know a lot about it. I'm not going to tell you how to vote on that one, but to know that your ballot, if you're a Republican, if you're not a Republican, if you have chosen to vote in the Republican primary, you have a lot of decisions to make. So check that out. And if you don't know what your ballot's going to look like, you need to go to the Oklahoma voter portal.okelections.gov. Type in your last name, your first name, your date of birth, and you'll be able to find your sample ballot. And I will tell you that District 3, Cleveland County Commissioner primary is super important. If you are in District 3 of Cleveland County, I would personally vote for Michael Nash. This is my own opinion, but we need to remove the people that have been there and put in people that are actually going to talk for us. And I know a lot of people in District 3, the people that I know are not registered Republicans, so they can't even vote in the primary, which is unfortunate because that's where this race is going to be decided. And if you are registered a Democrat, you do have one important decision to make. Our awesome representative Annie Mentz she has a challenger, and that's so rare in the Democratic primaries are usually pretty small. But if you live in Ward 5 and you live in House District 45, you need to vote for Annie Mentz because she's amazing and she's really spoken for the people. And so if you are a registered Democrat, you have a primary, and it is important for you to show up. And we really need everybody to vote for Annie Mentz. There's a couple other people that I'm super, super impressed with. And if you're Senate District 24, I like Heather Boss for the people. She's really good. And then Carmen Greider is running, and I think it's Senate District 31, but don't quote me on that. I'm going to put it out in my Substack. Danny Sterling is running. He has a primary, and I don't know what House district he's in, but I like him a lot. And there's a couple other people that have been really, really good for speaking and taking the No More Turnpikes viewpoint to the legislature and trying to improve our eminent domain laws and trying to improve our Oklahoma ethics laws and trying to improve our open records laws. And they're really trying really hard, pushing back against leadership. And I really think they need to stay in, because the more people we can get that truly believe in bringing the citizens' voice forward, hopefully we get such a groundswell that the leadership has to step aside. But that's what I wanted to say about that. That's June 16th. So please show up and vote and know where you're going to vote and know how you're going to vote. So,
Yeah,
Kelly,
super important.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm
are you
ready.
to talk?
I
Okay.
am. Yeah,
I'm gonna
I'm gonna try
this.
to add my screen to the stage. Let's see if we can go from here. So this is the resolution of necessity that the Turnpike Authority passed yesterday, and I just want to draw your attention to just how many landowners are listed here. I think we counted yesterday, and there were, hold on, let me pull up my notes. There were, got it right here, if I can get this little thing off. On the east-west connector, which they have renamed the Toby Keith Expressway, so if you hear that phrase, it's interchangeable. 40 parcels, and on the Turner Turnpike, 15, just in this one resolution of necessity. And so for those of you who may not know what that means just yet, so the resolution of necessity basically says the Turnpike Authority has determined that they need this property, and they ask the board to pass this resolution of necessity, and then the Turnpike Authority will then take this resolution and file it with the condemnation filing. It's my opinion, this is not legal advice, but it's my opinion that they have to have this document to file with the court for the court to agree to hear their condemnation case. This is how they prove that they need necessity, which, Amy, I don't know if you have any words to say about that, but seriously, this flimsy piece of paper by an unelected board who doesn't even take public comment, and yet they can come in, pass a resolution, and that suffices for justification of the court to then say, okay, yes, this entity needs to take your property and we will condemn your property for their use. So anyway, so a lot of us have a big problem with that.
Yep.
So you can see there. Amy, did you have some comments on that?
Well, I just want to tell everybody that, when we first started this, there's been a lot of legal briefs and legal conferences talking about the constitutionality of eminent domain overall. And one of the big takeaways from these big legal conferences that, know people who have a JD and have been practicing law for decades have said that it's unconstitutional according to, the Articles 5, 14, and I think there's one more in our U.S. Constitution, that you cannot take private property from an unelected board writing a resolution of necessity, like Kelly said, with a piece of paper that has a bunch of properties on it and bring it to the court. Like, that's not, you can't do that. And so there's been a movement across the United States to take away the right of eminent domain from these private property or
public-private partnerships.
Public-private partnerships, because they abuse the system. And it's not just the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority, it's everybody, like the electric corporations and the gas lines.
Data centers.
Yeah. And so, while a lot of people don't use eminent domain, like the data centers try to buy farmers out and ranchers out for those big properties, but a lot of them are trying to use this eminent domain. And so I'm really interested I want to see a lawsuit go all the way up to the United States Supreme Court on this particular issue, because there's, like Kelly is going to show you this piece of paper, there is literally no oversight. These people could put anybody's property on this list and go take it by law, that's allowed. And so that's why Pike Off OTA has been trying to go to the legislature and put in a necessity clause. Like, they have to go to the court to prove this necessity. Right now, they don't even have to go to the court and say, I need this. Literally, they could take anybody's property, not even on the turnpike route, and say, oh yeah, we have the right. So I think it's super important for legislators to understand how this process works. They literally had a typewriter or a computer, they printed this out, and now they have the right to take your private property. Why don't we put something in statute that says they have to go prove that they need it? And so that's what we have been working on for 4 years, to try to put in a resolution, a necessity clause like Florida has, and like a lot of the big time staunch private property protected states have, that say all these entities have to go prove it. So yeah, so Kelly's right. This is ridiculous that they can take your property with a piece of paper.
Yeah, so I wanted to actually show you guys what that voting looks like, just so you can see just how little goes into this decision before they take it to the court. So we're going to see if this works one more time. Let's try to do stop screen share and turn it back on. And I wish it would let you load more than one at a time, but let's see. So this is the portion of the meeting in which the Turnpike Authority voted to approve this resolution of necessity. I just want you guys to take notes on how little discussion goes into this.
Can you hear it?
I can. Can you guys not?
Yeah, we can't hear it.
Oh, okay. You know what? Here, we can hear it now. Hold on. Let's do it this way.
Item 1405 is
There we go.
Resolution of necessity for condemnation of certain real property interest along various corridors, in this case, east-west connector and the Turnpike itself. You'll notice there's several on this list this month, as we are continuing working through the program and timing and schedule. As this resolution for the board does not mean this stops negotiations. We are continuing to negotiate with landowners, and we'll continue on through this. An aspect of, once this list was created a couple weeks ago, since then we've reached a verbal agreement or a contract agreement with at least 9 that are on this list.
I do want to pause just for a second to point something out that he said here, because I think it's very important for our landowners to understand. What he said was, even after they pass this resolution of necessity, they will continue to negotiate with landowners through the condemnation process. So keep that in mind, guys. Okay, here we go.
Ultimately, we'll be able to reach an agreement with. So, like as I said, just because a landowner's on the list and get that, coordinating with general counsel and everything, we continue to negotiate and always strive to reach a good settlement with these landowners. With that, I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions? I make a motion that we approve items 1405 as presented.
No questions.
No questions.
Approval of item 1405, do we have a second? Second. Thank you, David. Please vote appropriately. Voting's ended, and item 1405 has been approved.
So let me put these back in. So we, yeah. How about that? Can you hear me okay now, Ivy?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I might need to change my audio settings back here. Just a second. Let's.
Yeah, so
Otherwise,
so
it's going to be echoing the whole time.
this is, again, like every single board in Oklahoma. The Ethics Commission, we can talk about that for 16 hours. The OTA board, you don't have any questions? You don't have any questions about the timeline, about how you've tried to negotiate with them, about what you're offering, about how you're getting the comps to give them a value? It blows my mind that people aren't even curious. Like, if I was on that board, those board meetings would be like 15 hours long. That's why I never get put on boards. I would ask so many questions. Right? It's nuts. Because they don't understand.
Yes,
and,
it is.
Half those people are trucking magnates and manufacturing people, and they have serious conflicts of interest as well, financial conflicts of interest as well. So,
Yeah. Okay, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I put my earpads back in, so I'm not sure if I got my volume stuff situated. Technology is a work in progress over here at this Wilson household. So the next thing I wanted to go to is that the Turnpike Authority also said that, actually, I should probably pull this up for you guys too. I'm going to try to share my screen one more time before we do this one. Let's go into this.
Yeah, it should show up.
And I might need to.
You have to add it to the stage. Is it down below?
Yeah, I need to hold on just a second. Let me back out of this.
So again,
I'm going to share this window for a second, but then I'm going to stop it. So.
When Kelly's finding that, I just want to tell you that we've got a lot more contacts of people who have had problems, like surveyors showing up to their house unannounced with no permission, with trespassing signs all over the place, and they've been doing the right thing. They've been calling the police and having the police escort the surveyors off. So if that happens to you, call the police, have them handle it, and you need to contact the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority in writing and request, do not access my property. And in addition, if you're getting letters, there is no rush. There is no rush to respond. You need to have everything in writing. And we hopefully will get some people to come on our podcast and talk about the process who have gone through it, because they have the same MO. They want to make a phone call. So if they want to make a phone call, then you need to record it. And I'm telling you this, you just need to protect yourself, because there's so many stories that are coming out, and people have recorded their conversations and we have listened to them, and it is insane. So many people could take them to court just on the things that are happening right now, and they're trying to move so fast, and people are so scared that they're making decisions based on fear. You need to just take a step back and figure out, watch the manipulation in real time, okay, and understand, be a marble statue. Don't be affected by what they do. You know what you want. You want them to obviously go away, and so do we. But you know in your heart and what you and your family need, and you need to advocate for that. And so we can be here as a support to help you through that. And we've been getting, I think that the admin emails blown up the last week or two from people who have sent us very interesting interactions with the OTA and the right-of-way team. And so things are going crazy right now, folks. You need to just don't be fearful, be educated, get everything in writing or record every conversation, because it's getting heated out there. And remember, call the cops if they show up, because you don't have to let them on your property.
Yeah, I've actually got some good tips and detailed information I was hoping we'd had time to go through this morning after we listen to this, because I think this is important. There is a group, a project number, I believe it is 28005. It's the portion of the east-west connector that's between like I-35 kind of area over to maybe Sooner Road or a little bit past that. And I know there are several landowners who have been really kind of hanging in the breeze this past 4 years, wondering what's going to happen with their property. And hopefully I can get this to queue up for just a second. I'll have to take my pods out for just a minute so you can hear it again. But she is basically going to explain what is going on with that process. So let's see if this works.
To the bond market, as we are shifting heavily into that construction phase, we're starting to see the fruits of our labor in the construction side, and it is reflecting heavy on the money spent. To date, we have invoiced over $740 million. Heard of a way 500. Mr. Cohn, you mentioned here we have an example of the tokens through the Design Expressway between I-35 and Sooner Road. I want to give a shout out to Greg Sparks at MKC, as him and his team have done a wonderful job during this process. I do want to mention that while many property owners in this segment, the segment that was just shown on the screen between I-35 and Sooner Road, we have been in communication, the OTA has been in communication with them, but we are also sending out letters this month to those property owners that will confirm their property is needed based on the approved right-of-way plans. The last update.
See if I can get these back in so you can hear me now. And I'll turn that off.
Okay. Can I just say something about this? She, like, okay, for real, did you see her face? Oh, we're going to come take your property, smiling. Like, give me a freaking break. This is the woman who went to the Association of General Contractors meeting in January, February, I forget, and some other meetings where people were calling me. Like, this lady's up there saying, we're moving as fast as we can. So specifically, Pike-Off OTA can't stop us. They know that what they're doing does not, it does not follow their trust agreement, does not follow statute. They know that. They tried to change statute 4 times on us this year. And then Brian Hill, the guy running for lieutenant governor, he said, oh yeah, we're going to get rid of that one part of the statute that Pike-Off OTA brought us to the Supreme Court on. And then she smiles, oh yeah, we're coming for your property. Okay. Like, seriously, I tell my students, you got to get out from behind the computer and go out in the real world and find out who you're affecting. As an engineer, as a transportation planner, stop. This is insane. They have no idea what eminent domain means. They have no idea because they've never been through it. They've never had their livelihood and their life threatened by government, quasi-government, come to take their property. Those people need to come out and see what is really happening out in our community. And they would wipe that smug face right off their face. That bothers me. Yeah. And so if you guys missed it, go back and watch what she just said and how she said it. This is the first time I've seen it because I was traveling, so I didn't see I didn't see it yesterday. I was at a basketball game, but okay. That really ticked me off.
So let's take a look at the updated access site website so that you guys can see this new feature that she also talks about, or somebody talked about somewhere in there. And that is, if you zoom all the way in, you go past, keep going past when the yellow lines disappear, and now you can see their detailed plans. And you can tell, and then a new key is going to pop up over here to the side that tells you what these things mean. So a gray line is existing OTA property line. Now I can tell you, I have looked over this map and it's not accurate. A lot of these places where it has a solid gray line, don't think that means your neighbor has already sold out, because it doesn't. It's just incompetent work as usual. somebody needs
Yeah,
to double check
for
their
real.
work before they publish. But anyway, and they now have the plans for this section. So you can kind of see, so if you're in this section, then you can now see kind of where they intend to take property, what they intend to do. And then she also goes on and says that she specifies how many properties they intend to take along the entire east-west connector. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head, but it was over 100. And they have already maybe secured, I can't remember how many. I'll have to go back and watch the meeting to tell you those numbers specifically. But you can see here they seem to have, oh look, there's a message. No pike. That's interesting. How fun is that?
Wait, can I ask you a question? So that top line,
Yeah.
that's Indian Hills, that's their service road, or what's that extra? No, that's Indian Hills, and then what's the one right to the south of that? Is that another service road?
Assume that is going to be another service road. What I'm not clear on is this their phase 1 of the plan, and then they will eventually get rid of Indian Hills Road, or like they aren't clear about those kinds of things. So we really just don't have any idea.
And they even have they have a southern, they have a road on the south too, a service road on the south. And how
Looks to
far
be
does
that
that go?
way.
How far does that go over?
So it looks like they have these.
Are you
plans
serious?
drawn
Wait, go
out.
back to the west. Stop. Look at that house in between the turnpike and the service road. They're leaving that house. Are they going to take it?
No, they will take that. I'm sure they will try to take that.
Oh my gosh.
And just so you guys know, at the corner of this property right here, I think they have, or at least they used to have a sign that says that this is a Centennial Farm, which means it's been in the family for, it's been farmed in that family for over 100 years, which I just think is it's atrocious that they would try to take this from these people. But
So
anyway,
wait a second. So the OTA says, this is another thing we should talk about. We don't have time today, but so the OTA is going to take property and they're going to build those service roads? Okay, let me tell you something. They don't have legal authority to do that. So that's another lawsuit that needs to get filed, because they are only allowed to build things necessary for a turnpike. A service road is not necessary for a turnpike. Getting on and off is not necessary for a turnpike. You want to connect to I-35, that's your connection. You want to connect to I-40, that's your connection. That's somebody needs to look into that. And then it just stops right there. What is that? 38?
the plans, this is
36, I mean.
That's 36th Avenue. So the detailed plans stop there. But I also want to draw your attention to up here. So they have done a ton of condemnation up here. Let's just take a look at this. So you can go to Cleveland County Assessor's website. You can plug this in right here, and you can say Oklahoma Turnpike. Oh, if I could spell correctly. And then you can click map, and it will show you the properties they have acquired to date. And you'll notice up here, I mean, they have acquired a lot of properties up there. So let's see if it will let me do a split screen here. I don't know what's going to happen. Oh, nope, guess not. We'll go back to the screen though for now. So you can see that's where all of those properties were, right up here. And what happens when we zoom in there? Nothing. These people have already been through the condemnation process. Like, they have filed condemnation. A lot of those parcels that we saw over here that I showed you before in the agenda, those are located up in this area. And those people, why are they not afforded why do they not get to see what the map looks like as a whole? None of the people on 28005, the one that I just showed you a minute over here, none of these people have even been notified at all about what the impact is going to be to their property, if any. Nobody has been notified that I have talked to. And I've talked with several people in this area, and they keep asking me, what's this going to look like? When are they going to let us know what's going on? And to LaDan's credit, she did say that part of the reason for this slowdown maybe in this area was that the MKEC group, which is over design over this project number, was trying to reduce the number of parcels taken. So yay for that, I guess. But, you know, it just goes to show how people are not treated the same. They're not treated fairly. You know,
well,
these
okay,
people,
because these people are higher income, okay, and the people over near Nuwala are all lower income, and it's smaller houses. That's exact. You know what they say in transportation planning, Kelly? You know the best way to get rid of a community? Build a road through it. What do you think
Well,
they
there
did?
you have it.
What do you think they did in Tulsa? They killed that black community. What do you think they did in New York City? Robert Moses. You want to get rid of a community? Build a roadway through it. And I just want everybody that's listening, like you can hear my tone of voice. I'm pretty ticked off because I'm really ticked off about that one video you showed me of her talking. But you build access roads, okay, in transportation planning and economic development. You build service roads for one reason. And one reason you build service roads is economic development, because you want to bust the zoning and have people build high density, commercial, sprawling commercial warehouses and all this crap. Because you don't need service roads on a major highway. And I know that because I just drove back and forth to Florida, and we drive back and forth to North Carolina every year, and all the major roads that we are on don't have service roads. And when you get to a place like in a city that has service roads, what's all there? All economic development. So they're going to take that rural area with those service roads and try to bust. The developers are all salivating. And so it has nothing to do with transportation and everything to do with getting people to bust those zoning and make it like the Kilpatrick 2.0. And it is so important for the city of Norman to pay attention, although I feel like I'm screaming into the wind about this, because they didn't believe us about our lawsuit. They didn't believe us about anything, and they don't listen, which is super frustrating. But the service roads is key, and the city, because it's through the city proper, they have the right to go after that. And I hope that they listen when we talk to them about the legality of the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority buying extra land for service roads, because I'm pretty sure that that's not legal. And of course, we have a bought-off Supreme Court justice system, but hopefully people will vote do not retain, and we'll get some better people in there. But I just everything, Kelly, about this whole thing is not how you're supposed to do transportation planning, and it bothers me that different communities are treated differently.
Yeah. 100%. So another thing I wanted to show you guys is we're back to the resolution of necessity. Remember, they passed that flimsy piece of paper with no questions. And it's not just landowners and individual property owners and their homes that are being impacted, but like you can see right here, they're actually condemning a school property, community Christian school, which is, if I can scroll down a little bit further, they will show you some of the maps. And I might need to zoom out just a smidge because it looks like their maps are pretty big. But I just know I can show you where that is. It is right here. I believe this is the school. Yeah. So they're going to apparently try to take some of that frontage road right there. And I think they may even, if you keep scrolling, they're going to give you more detailed maps of what each one of those parcels is. And you can kind of correlate them and see how much of the property they're taking from these people. And so it's just absolutely disgusting. But anyway, so that brings me to my next, let's see if we can see this. So the first step in the official right-of-way acquisition process is this notice of interest letter that's going to come in the mail, and I'm hearing from landowners that people are receiving a copy just regular mail, and they're also receiving one via certified mail. And you can see here that this letter is going to contain some contact information for the landowner to call the right-of-way agent that is quote-unquote assigned to them. One thing that you won't find on these letters is an email address. So I want you to think about this long and hard. If you receive this letter in the mail, the first thing I want you to notice is that it wants you to reach out and essentially request information about the project and how it impacts your property. And you have to cold call them. And they already have all the information, but you have none. And so it's like that hierarchy structure. I want you guys to be aware of this. Like, when you walk into some, big fancy executive's office and he has you sit in the little chair and he sits behind the big desk, right? And that's basically what goes on here, is they're immediately putting you in an inferior position because they hold all the cards and you hold none. And you're just begging them for information about how this is going to impact you. So what I want everyone to do when you get this information, I want you to stop. And I want you to, let's see if I can find my other page I had queued up on here somewhere. Of course, now I've moved it and I can't find it, but let's see, it's got to be here somewhere. I want you to reach out to the, let's see if I can pull this up now. Hold on, let me share my screen again. Sorry, this is kind of a pain to have to pull it all down and then put it all back up. I wish there was a better way to do this, but bear with me. And we're gonna look at this window right here. And I just need to add it to, there we go. Amy got it up for me. Okay, so take a look at this. And when you get this letter in the mail, I want you to notice a few things. The first thing I want you to do, this is a resource we've kind of put together. It's a work in progress. First of all, the legal disclaimer, this is not legal advice. Read through this. The information provided in this document is for general information and educational purposes only. Is not intended to constitute legal, financial, appraisal, engineering, tax, or other professional advice. Nothing contained herein should be construed as creating an attorney-client relationship or as a substitute for advice from qualified professionals familiar with your specific circumstances. I would encourage you to continue reading the rest of that on your own, but I just want to make it very clear that Amy and I are not attorneys. We are not trying to give you legal advice. What we're doing is we are collecting experiences from other landowners who've already been through the process, and we've kind of put together a picture. We're pulling out patterns and seeing how people have been treated and learning from that. So again, if you've been impacted, please contact us. We'll keep all of your information private, but it helps us understand a little bit more about the process and how people are being treated so that we can share that collective information and make it a better process for the people coming behind you. So what I want to have you here is, as soon as you get this letter, I want you to think about that power imbalance and about how that right-of-way agent has all this information that you really want to have. And I want you to stop, and I want you to consult an attorney before you call that number. The second thing I hope you will do is either reach out to your neighbors or even reach out to the Pykoff admin email address, which is just admin@pykoffota.com, I believe, and ask them if they have the right-of-way agent listed on your paperwork, if they have an email address for this person. I would highly encourage you not to call the phone number, because when you call and you try to get information from them, you're already at a disadvantage. That information is not going to be recorded anywhere, and you're not going to be able to refer back to it. So you really need to have, especially this initial information needs to be in writing so that you have an opportunity to review it before you are put in a situation where you have to start talking about your property. Because what might happen is you might give them information in this initial phone call that works to your detriment for your settlement on your property. So before you do anything, you should contact an attorney. But if you do want to talk with them, then I would highly encourage you to obtain the email address first. Either call your neighbors, find out what the email address is that they received, or email the Pykoff admin, and we'll help you find the email address so that you can email them. Now, when you do email them, first of all, you can tell them in writing that you do not want anybody to access your property. I think it's also important to note that I personally wouldn't think it would be a good idea for landowners to just refuse the certified mail that comes. Go ahead and open it, receive it, that you're not agreeing to any of their terms by doing that. But if the OTA, it's my fear personally as a landowner, that if I don't respond to the OTA at all, then that makes it easier when they go to the court to file condemnation and they say, well, we tried to get in touch with this landowner, but we were unsuccessful. So you do want to let them know that you are here and that you are going to take control of the situation, and they're not going to control it. Accepting that letter does not mean that you accept anything that they are telling you. It just means that you are not going to let them ambush you and that you're going to have a say in this fight. So the second thing is, don't let them rush you. When you email this right-of-way agent, the first thing I personally think you should do is ask them in the email to provide you with a copy of the plans for your property and all the properties surrounding your property. Because how can you discuss the impacts to your property if you don't even know how it is going to impact your property? You don't know what, and I think it's important to get the plans for your neighbor to the north, south, east, and west, because you need to know if there's any remainder of your property left after they say they want to take it. Then you need to know how that is going to impact your property, whether it's drainage or, you need to know what the elevation is going to look like. Is the bridge right next door to you going to be elevated, or is it going to be, lower than your property? All of those things are things that you're going to want to take into consideration before you open your mouth and say anything to the right-of-way agent, because they're taking notes on everything that you say. Every time that you have an interaction with these right-of-way agents, they have to make a note in your file that says, I talked to so-and-so on such and such date, and this is what they said. So just remember that. Everything you say is going to be documented, and therefore everything they say should be documented. And so I just want you to think of this as a business transaction. Try to take the emotion out of it, but any time you have a business transaction, you want to get everything in writing, right? That way you can refer back to this information. They can't tell you any shenanigans, because one thing that I've heard over and over from landowners is they say, and this happens in the very first phone call, when they call and they say, hey, I got this letter, I'm told to call you. And that right-of-way agent says, we need to get your appraisal scheduled right now, like next week or the week after, because we're moving quickly on this project and we need you out of your house in 6 months or by the end of the fall or whatever. And so I think it's important that our landowners understand that this is the point at which this is why you need this stuff in writing, because I think they're going to be a little less likely to say those kinds of things in writing, because one, they know it's not true. They know that they're not coming for your house and that you have to be out of your house by, Christmas or whatever it is that they told you. And so they're more likely to give you accurate information the first time if everything is put in writing, because then they don't have to come back and say, oh no, we really didn't say that or whatever. So get it in writing. Second of all, they don't need to rush you. Tell them that you want a copy of the plans and that you need 30 days, 60 days, whatever, however long you think it's going to take you to gather information that you need to have fair discussions with these people, because you need to educate yourself about what they want of your property, and you need to then be able to have time to consult professionals, whether that's an attorney, appraiser of your own, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend personally. From my own personal experience, I wouldn't recommend that at this stage of the game, but you might want to talk with a realtor. You might want to get an appraisal, or you might want to get an estimate from a fencing company to find out how much it would cost to replace the same type of fence that you have if you were to move to another property. Special upgrades that you've or special personal property that you have on your property, whether it's a storm shelter or a pool or these kinds of things. So if you you just let them know that you need time to consult with professionals after you receive those right-of-way plans, so that they can help you understand the process better before you start talking with the right-of-way agent about moving forward with any kind of acquisition of your property. And they need to give you the opportunity to do those things, to consult with those professionals and to understand the project before they rush you into anything at all. And if they don't, in my opinion, this is something I think is very important. I want you guys to remember, is good faith negotiations. If you're asking for information that you feel is necessary for you to take into consideration for selling your property or not selling your property, or deciding whether you want to sell all of it or part of it, they need to enter into what's called good faith negotiations, which means they need to provide you with all of the information that you need, that you feel that you need, not what they think you need, but what you know that you need, or what you think that you need to make an informed, educated decision on any part of the acquisition of your property. So again, hire an attorney. But in this initial email, you need to tell them, I have been in receipt of this letter. I need 30 days or 60 days or 90 days, whatever it is, to consult with some professionals before I move forward with anything else. And also request a copy of those plans and let them know that maybe that 30-day period starts after you've been in receipt of the plans for your property. And tell them you don't want the crayon drawing, you want detailed plans. You want something at 60% design plan or later. And let's just face it, if they tell you that they can't provide the 60% design plans because they're not that far along, then how do they know they need your property? So that's where I would go with that. So anyway, so we have some of these resources available for you guys, and let's just take a look here. This is an actual appraisal report. Hopefully this will pull up, that I have gone through, and it doesn't look like it's going to pull it for me now, of course, but I have gone through and redacted all of the personal information so that you guys can see what the appraisal takes into consideration and what it doesn't. I think you'll be really surprised. But part of the reason I'm encouraging all these landowners to consult with professionals and to also tell the Turnpike Authority that you need at least 30 days to look over those design plans and talk with these professionals is because you need to essentially put together your own appraisal of your property personally. You don't need to hire someone to do this. This is something you can do on your own, and have the comps ready for them. Already know before that appraiser sets foot on your property that you're going to hand them a copy of the estimate that the fencing company gave you on what it would cost to repair or to replace that fence. But I also want you guys to see how they depreciate certain items on your property, like your barns and your sheds and your house and those kinds of things. So all of that, you're going to be able to see all of that in this appraisal report. I feel like that if you can get the most accurate information to the appraiser the very first get-go, then hopefully your initial offer will be top dollar. It will be really good right out of the gate, and then you can negotiate up from that. But what we're seeing from these appraisals is that, most of the time landowners are kind of ambushed. They try to get you in, get this appraisal done within 2 weeks of when you receive this letter. I'm telling you guys, there's no rush. They're not going to do anything on the South Extension for 4 years, according to their own maps. So either they need to update their maps so the public has a better idea of what's going on, or you really have 4 years. So either way, there's not a rush. There shouldn't be a rush. And if they're going to deny you the time to adequately consult with professionals and review the information and all of that and rush you through the process, that's not good faith negotiations, and that won't go over well in court, because that is part of right-of-way policy and procedures for the state of Oklahoma. As the statutes say, you have to negotiate in good faith. Otherwise, that's not just compensation. So another couple of resources. Go ahead. Did you have a question, Amy?
Well, we all know that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority follows all the rules and all the laws set down in the state of Oklahoma. And the district attorney, and the district attorney always indicts white collar crime, and the attorney general backs that up with convictions. Because our legal system works so well. So really the power has to be with the citizens. So stand your ground and don't negotiate out of fear. And again, like Kelly said on the Southern Extension, do not negotiate with them right now. Like, oh, so what? Just dig your feet in the sand and let them go to condemnation. Because hopefully they'll realize they're totally focused on the East-West Connector right now. They have to get that done. That's for them. They will be so in trouble with their developer friends and in the banks and all the other people making money off it if they don't get that East-West Connector done. So especially if you're on the if you're on the Southern Extension, just stop. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and the Southern Extension, there is definitely a case to be made that a lot of the people on the South Extension were not given proper notice before the Turnpike Authority had the bonds validated. So because they didn't think they were in the path, therefore they didn't have an opportunity to protest that. So I would just like to encourage anybody who's on the south extension that's in the newer design part where they weren't impacted before, but they are now. Keep that in mind. You should talk with an attorney, and you might want to fight that and say that they shouldn't have even been given bond money to work on your part of the project at all, because you didn't have an opportunity to protest. Therefore, they denied you one of your constitutional rights to protest the validation of those bonds. So, okay, so moving back over here to our sheet here. So one of the things I want you guys to do in the meantime, before you contact them and move forward with any of these discussions, after you receive your design plans from them, start working on your own appraisal, get your own comps, do all of these things that are here. Some good resources for pulling your comps. You can go to Zillow. Maybe we'll do a podcast later that goes into this a little bit more deeply to show you guys how to use these resources. But you can also go to the Cleveland County Assessor's website, and you can pull up sales, recent sales according to the assessor. There's all kinds of good links in here, those magic words. And then, so now we're going to go back to these additional resources, because this is really important too. So OTA doesn't have to follow the same right-of-way acquisition policy and procedures that ODOT does. ODOT came up with this on their own. Some of it is mandated by federal guidelines. Some of it's just the state said this is good practices. And I will say I would like to say that it's better than what the OTA does, but I don't actually know what the OTA's policies and procedures are, because they do not have their manual published anywhere. I've been asking for it over and over again, and I haven't received it. I did finally put in a formal request through an open records request last week. So let's hope that I receive that soon. So I've been told that it is a work in progress and they're trying to update those procedures, but I requested whatever the current version is that you're using, because let's face it, they're right-of-way consultants. They have to have some policy and procedure guide to follow. So if you are a landowner and you are dealing with the right-of-way acquisition policy or right-of-way acquisition process right now, I would highly encourage you to tell your right-of-way agent that you want to stop the negotiation process because you don't feel like they are moving forward in good faith negotiations, because you don't even know what the policies and procedures are. Therefore, you have no way of knowing if they are following the policies and procedures set forth in writing by the governing agency, which is the OTA. So until you can verify that everybody is following the proper policies and procedures, how do you know that they are with you in good faith and that you are providing information that you have to provide, and at this time they're asking you to provide it, and all of those things? So go ahead and take a look at this resource. I think it's a really good one. You can see here is 769 pages long. The OTA currently only provides landowners with 5 pages of property rights, and it doesn't tell you anything you really need to know. So there's some good information in here. There's it talks about setbacks and appraisal report and what is supposed to go into the appraisal report. What does that appraiser need to include? It's going to explain how they come about the valuation approach to market value, or sales comparison approach, or cost approach, or income approach. All of those things matter. Another thing that you guys need to think about is highest and best use. Look into what highest and best use is. What is the definition of it? What is the OTA's definition of it? And how can you apply highest and best use to your property? Maybe that's something you want to look at before you start talking to your right-of-way agent. So then they're going to talk about how comps are supposed to be looked at and incorporated, all those kinds of things. So there's some this ODOT manual is a really good thing for you to look at because it's going to talk about that process and procedure that ODOT does. And you can always tell your right-of-way agent, ODOT, this is their policy and procedure, and that should be considered best management practices. And if it's best management practices for the State Department of Transportation, then it's logical for you to require the OTA to follow those same policies and procedures. In my opinion, not legal advice, but this is best management practices. Maybe they should give you a good reason why they don't do this. If they're not doing that. So let's go back over here to landowner resources, something else I want you guys to take a look at is the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice. So the appraiser has to be certified by this or an appraisal board. And so they have to follow these uniform standards of professional appraisal practice. Another great reference for any of you who are already dealing with the appraiser. Make sure that they have followed all of those standards to a T. I would also encourage you, something I forgot to mention earlier, if you are at the stage where say your appraisal is already scheduled, first of all, you can cancel that and tell them you need more time. That's fine. Even if it's scheduled for later this afternoon, you have the ability to say, you know what, I'm not ready for this yet. Because I would encourage landowners to have all of that appraised, basically have your own appraisal ready to go, hand it over to the appraiser when he sets foot on your property. That way he has no excuses for putting in comps that are not comps for your property and those kinds of things. And it kind of gives them an idea of what your expectations for and how you value your property, because that's important. Don't wait for that to be part of your counter offer to them. That needs to go in from the very beginning. That's part of the reason they try to keep you off guard. So back to the uniform standards. I do believe this is something you would have to purchase. I purchased it. It does have a lot of great information in there. There is one other thing I would show you, and there's a book on Amazon that you can also order that is like, it's called the, I don't have it in front of me. It's like eminent domain. It's about eminent domain. I'll have to look into it and I'll put a link into it later, but it's like $150. I have that book. There's some excellent information. It's basically a handbook for a condemnation appraisal. And it tells you exactly what they're supposed to take into consideration and whatnot. An example from the book that I think was helpful for people. All of us, most of us have very unique properties because we're out in the country. We have, varying size properties from, 10 acres to 14 to 37 to, random sizes. And let's face it, there really aren't very many comps for those kinds of properties, those special sizes, especially with all of the improvements that you have, made to your property over years, whether it's a loafing shed or a horse barn or whatever. So you can look at that and see that special, unique properties, they are required to find comps outside of our area and use those if necessary to give a true comp for your property. Now, maybe you don't want them to do that. Maybe it's not in your best interest. I don't know. That's something you'll have to look into yourself. But all the more reason you need to understand what this appraiser is supposed to, according to those uniform standards, is how they are supposed to calculate those things. And just because they are supposed to do it doesn't mean that they are, because I can tell you I've seen some appraisals and they didn't do that. So be sure you understand what they're supposed to include. And if you notice any incorrect information when you do get that appraisal report back, especially if the square footage is wrong on your house or the materials used in the building of your house, if they say that it's siding and you have brick, you need to bring that to their attention and you need to demand that the appraisal be redone. That is not correct, and they should not be basing their dollar amount of your property on what is incorrect information that's not accurate. And I've also noticed that the land square footage recorded in the clerk's documents and the surveys that are recorded with the county clerk are different and oftentimes less than what the OTA is putting in their documents. And therefore, landowners are getting cheated out of 1 to 5 acres in their sale price, which is atrocious. I think that was about all I had on there. The last thing I want to say to you guys is this, and that is knowledge is power. The more you understand about the acquisition process, the better equipped you will be to protect your interest and make informed decisions. Take the time to educate yourself before engaging in these discussions with the right-of-way agent. You may discover that you know more about your property and the project's impacts and the acquisition process than the people that are contacting you. I wouldn't be surprised. So stay informed, stay organized, stay engaged, and remember, you're not facing this alone. There are so many people around you, your neighbors, anybody at Pike Off that you want to contact. We can connect you with people that are in your shoes and try to help give you materials and resources to help you through the situation. So you are not alone. And definitely just don't forget that. So I think that's all I have for right away.
All right, well, good. That's a lot of information. And someone asked in the comments when we could get that to them, and I said we'd link it to our website, and then I put it out on a Substack. And I've got a hard out, sorry, about 11:30, but you want to stay on and talk, that's okay. I've got to go to Mustang. But and I'm not taking a turnpike, everybody. I'm staying off the turnpike. So you have this summer, stay off those turnpikes. Take the free roads, the tax-supported roads. But don't forget that we have our Royal Bavaria Family Fun Night this Sunday, pending weather. We're going to make a call, I told you in the beginning, by Thursday, and we'd love to see you. Remember, we make all the profits off the buffet, so come. We can get 250 people there. That would be great. Sean Prophet's going to be playing music for us. We got a magician for the kids and some nice fun games to play. So please do come on Sunday or next Sunday, depending on what happens with the weather. And Kelly and I will be back next Monday at the regularly scheduled time at 10 a.m.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I might be on the road, so
Yeah.
I might be doing this from the car.
Yeah.
But yes, we will be. Yes, we should be back next Monday.
We're going to try for that. And stay in touch with us, and hopefully we see you all Sunday. And have a fantastic week. Hopefully it's decent weather. But we'll see you at some point, Sunday or Monday. And until then, take care and do your homework.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good day.
Thank you for joining us on the Right of Way Report, a podcast by Pike-Off OTA. You can join us here every Monday morning at 10 a.m., where we will bring you updates on legislation, litigation, and landowner information.